So dear respected teacher, dear Sangha, so happy to see so many familiar faces. I don't believe that impermanence is ruling because people look the same to me. I don't think there's been any change. So yes, it's true. Some of us were on retreat last week at Plum Village, Thailand. And I have already seen on the screen some of you who were there. It was quite a joyful, for me, for sure, quite a joyful retreat. We had 35 countries represented, so it was more international than it's ever been. I mean, just a few short years ago, to see maybe 10 non-Asian faces was the norm. And this time, there were quite a few people from Western countries. 180 people received the 5 mindfulness trainings. 12 from my Dharma family. And you know, we all, those of us already in the practice, Plum Village practice, are so encouraged when that happens, when we see others committing to this path that we're on. When I sit there during the ceremony, I always feel, actually I get a little bit emotional, especially when those who are receiving the trainings are bowing down in gratitude to ancestral teachers and to the parents who brought them to life. And so for me, when I listen to that, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, I'm sure that probably everybody in the room who has already gone through that ceremony is reliving it, so to speak, or renewing our own vows, our own commitments. Brother Ivan asked that we entitle tonight's talk to Renewing and Sustaining Our Practice. The title of the retreat, the name of the retreat was New Year, New Me. And I know in the past our teacher, Thai, he would say, because we've had a number of retreats with that same name, it's a new year, but are you a new you? Or are you bringing those habit energies, those negative habit energies of maybe regret or sadness, are you bringing that into the new year? Or are you, or have you made a commitment? Have you aspired? Are you aspiring to let go of those? And so that, when I thought about this this afternoon, about this talk, and I treated it as though I was giving the talk to myself, and so I was asking myself, so what is my motivation? What is my practice? We talk about renewing and sustaining our practice, but what is my practice? What is your practice? It differs for different people. We have, starting with the breath, the breathing, that song, we have many practices in Buddhism handed down to us through our ancestral teachers, and then teachers like our Thai, our Zen master, so creative, came up with some new practices that perhaps weren't so popular or had not even been thought of as being meditation centuries ago, or even maybe 40 years ago, I don't know. And some of you've heard me talk more than once about my own lineage name that I received when I went through that ceremony, concrete practice. Concrete practice. And that tells you something about my aspiration at that time. I regret that I didn't have the means or even the thought to save or to make a copy or write it twice, that aspiration that I wrote in 1997, so that I could revisit it. But when I think of my name, Concrete Practice, and I'm well aware of where I was in my life at that time, I'm sure that I was feeling pretty desperate, and my aspiration must have been something like, I aspire to let go of this craziness in my mind, this anger. I had so much anger, and of course, what is underneath anger but grief, sadness, disappointment? So I was quite disappointed in my life and where it was at that time, the stage that I was going through, the suffering in me and around me and others. It was not at all what I had realized very early in my life that I wanted for myself. So maybe you've had some of those same feelings. I reflected this afternoon on going all the way back to my early teen life, living with my parents and living in a small community, eastern coast of the U.S., South Carolina, deep south, a lot of suffering there. And seeing all around me a lot of unwholesomeness, what I would call unwholesomeness, in the young people I was around. And I was around the only young people who were available, because I grew up in a town of 700 and a county that had about 10,000 people in it. My graduating class from high school had 80 people in it. And there just seemed to not be a lot of wholesomeness. There's a lot of ignorance and a lot of negativity, a lot of darkness. And so I could probably say that much of my life I felt disappointed, always sort of thinking there must be something else, there must be. And so I was quite interested in religion in my early teen life, and attended church and Episcopal Church of the U.S. It's the Church of England in America. I loved those spaces at that time. I loved that feeling of sacredness in that church. That was really why I joined that church. It was not one that was, it was a very small church in my community. The churches that were quite popular then, as they are now, the spaces never felt sacred because they were so chatted up. What my first teacher used to say, chatted up. So the energy of so much casual talk. So the feeling of that, the feeling that we can get when we walk in, I'm sure we've all experienced it if we've been to the monastery or to the nunnery, when we walk into the Buddha Hall, or when we walk into the temple there in in Singapore or KL or wherever you are. And it has that feeling of respect, of deep respect. So my practice has involved for many years simple things. Getting joy. I love that song. It was our anthem, you might say, our theme song, a better way to put it, in our family this last week, because that's the foundation, really. And it seems to me that we get more and more confused when the farther away we get from the foundation of the simple things in life that can bring joy, and also are wonderful spaces and activities that promote mindfulness or support mindfulness. So it's so much easier, isn't it, to chop a carrot, to be present when you're chopping a carrot, because you might chop your finger off if you aren't present. So you're supported in that way. But when you're doing something that simple, it's so much easier to breathe and be present right then and right there than, say, it is when you're on the internet solving some problem or working on some project at work that seems so removed from daily life. I mean, there are wonderful ideas and there are wonderful inventions and there are wonderful projects, but I wonder sometimes, what's happened to our connection to ourselves and to our daily life, the simple life. So I talked last week, when I was promoting that song, I talked last week about getting so much joy from walking down the alley here at my house in Hanoi in the early morning to the wet market. So there are maybe 25 or 30 women there, and selling vegetables, fruits, tofu, fresh tofu, whatever. And I get so much joy from doing that. Not only seeing the vegetables and buying them and bringing them back and washing them and chopping them. I've never had a cook in my life, and I never want one, because I like doing those things. I'm grateful that I grew up in a family where my mother did those things. My sister did those things. We've all loved being in the kitchen. We love to work with food. We're interested in food, healthy food, and feeding our family. And I know that a lot of you on the screen are in that same place. But another thing that has become my practice, and I'm not only renewing it, but I'm keeping it, and I'm maybe amping it up a bit, and that is connecting. Connecting with strangers. So I do that in the morning. I do that anytime I walk out of here, out of my house, to walk to the supermarket, or to walk to get a massage, or to walk to the cafe, or to walk to the pharmacy, or wherever I'm going in the neighborhood. I make a conscious effort, so right diligence, to make a connection, to make eye contact, to smile with strangers. So it was very interesting to me to read in the New York Times this past, in the last few days, the results of a years-long study that's been done in North Carolina, the University in North Carolina in the U.S., and Sussex, England, on just that, on the benefits of connecting with strangers. Just that moment, it can be just such a nanosecond, really, of making that eye contact, or maybe there's a smile that goes with it, but acknowledging that person is there. I'm here, you're there, I see you. And also, I feel seen at the same time. So it's so beneficial to do that. So there were lots of statistics in that article. I'll try to find it and send it to anybody who wants it, but it's quite long. But I highly recommend that as a practice for all of us, especially in this high-tech world that we live in and that you live in particular, those of you in Singapore in particular, that you can benefit from that and adopt that as your practice. But meanwhile, I've been reflecting on my practice this afternoon and talking about my practice, but my question of you is, what is yours? What is it that you want to renew? I came across a quote by Thai. I came across that quote recently. He's talking about silence. And he says that silence is as important to us as the air we breathe. He says silence is as essential as sunshine is to a plant. So I invite you to consider that and ask yourself, do I build into my life moments of silence where I'm not listening to music, I'm not talking, I'm not reading, and in fact the super silence is when you realize that you're not thinking either, that you're just breathing and relaxing your body and feeling joy in feeling whatever's going on in your body, or feeling at least supreme interest in what is going on there. So you're being really present and with a quiet mind. So it's not necessary for those of you who, especially those of you who just committed to the 5 and maybe are rather new to the practice, my own experience is it's not necessary to come back and try really hard. You don't need to try anything really. But you might want to visit your depth of your determination, or the strength of your determination. Now I've received these. I've made this commitment. Am I going to commit to read them every week, or do what some people I know do, which is read them every day? Get so familiar with those words and the meaning behind those words and those sentences, so that they really become, we embody them, they become a part of our daily life. You might want to consider that. But in the last few years, I've been quite enjoying Master Lin Chi. I don't remember, maybe 8th century Zen master in China. And he writes about the ordinary person. Be an ordinary person, live an ordinary life, but live it. Be alive for it, to be present for it. And for me, that means keeping it simple. Now, I realize that virtually, in fact, everyone I'm looking at on the screen is quite a bit younger than I am, and most of you are in the workforce, and you go to work, you go to the office, you have, perhaps you have family, you maybe have young children at school, you have a lot of demands on your time. But don't fall into that trap of believing that you don't have time for the practice. Whatever you're doing, whether it's working on your computer at work, or tending to your child at home, or chopping that carrot, all of that is practice. That is your practice, to be present in those moments. So we don't differentiate. We don't separate and say, okay, the practice is over here now. Okay, now I'm going to practice. Okay, now I'm not going to practice because now I need to pay attention to my family. That is your practice, your family. You know, Mother Teresa said, go home and love your family. She also talked decades ago about the greatest, don't remember the word she used, but maybe she might have used tragedy or something like that, or malady or unhappiness in the world is loneliness. And the loneliness comes about from not being present for oneself, for one's feelings. It doesn't mean that we have to have a room full of people around us. In fact, my experience, this used to happen to me quite often before I was really into this practice, some of the most lonely times I've ever experienced were at parties where there might be 300 people in the room. And I felt very disconnected from myself, probably because I really didn't want to be there anyway, but there I was. So pay attention to that. Pay attention. Are you lonely? Are you lonely? No one can fill that hole but you. No one can fix that but you. We can try. We love our family members. We love our neighbors. We love our friends. And we have people around us that we know are suffering from loneliness and depression. We cannot do their inner work for them. Just as you would not want anyone to do yours for you, even if they could. This is your path. This is my path. You have yours, I have mine. You have your timetable, I have my timetable. Yeah. So, so where am I? What are we talking about? Renewing and sustaining. So I think for me, what keeps me, so this may or may not work for you, what keeps me really determined to stay the path is the suffering that I see around me. I read the news. The news really motivates me. It reminds me that I have a purpose in life, and that is to make a difference. And how do I make a difference? By how I live my life. As Ty used to say, his life was his teaching. Not so much his words. Of course, they were beautiful and are beautiful teachings and explanations of teachings. But what really impacted the world was how he walked, how he spoke. His presence was so huge, such a small man, and yet he could fill a room with his presence. When he walked in, everyone knew it immediately. You could feel it. You could feel his presence. So we each are responsible for our own work, and that's how we make a difference in our world. So I read the news. I know what's going on in Gaza. I know what's going on in Venezuela. I know what's going on in Minnesota. I know what's going on in villages here in Vietnam. And that inspires me, motivates me, reminds me to renew that determination to stay the course, even if I were tempted. And early in the practice, it takes a while. It took a while for me anyway, and I think it does for most people, to become really grounded in the practice. We think, oh, it's wonderful, but oh, how do I do that? And then come home, and then here's life as usual, and it's just like I left it 2 weeks ago, and I'm back into the same routines, and oh, I forgot to breathe. I brushed my teeth, but I don't remember brushing my teeth. Oh, how did I get to work anyway? I must have been on autopilot. My body somehow knew where it was going and didn't need me to guide it. That's autopilot. So it takes, it has taken me years. But I'm happy to report that I've had a few experiences, things happen around me and my family recently and here and there that have shown me, wow, Trish, the practice has worked. Oh, thank you. It's working. Because I didn't react, I didn't overreact, I haven't fallen apart, I haven't thought, oh no, how terrible. I haven't had thoughts like that. I just see it for what is happening, and I accept it, and I know that it's okay. So my confidence in the practice and in my own capacity to be present, it's grown, it's there, and I've seen the proof in the last few days, where maybe 30 years ago I would have, and I use that 30 years ago because I met this practice, in 96. I would have gotten all excited, oh no, this is happening, oh no, and made it worse. But instead, I felt so calm. So I've had, so you might want to think about, those of you who've been in the practice for a while, one way to rejuvenate yourself or to stay juvenated in the practice, to keep that level of determination there and that purpose clear, is to take time in those silent moments to reflect on how have I, how is my life going? Reflect on those times when you feel your behavior, your response was exactly what you would want it to be, and you actually were able to be there for your loved ones. In other words, it's kind of like, I'm sure those of you who, in school, they will say to you, if you need to give a speech, for example, you don't, and you feel the anxiety building because you're not used to giving speeches, but you have given some in the past, and so the advice is reflect back on that time when you really shone, when you were really good, when it really worked, when you felt so good. Reflect on that rather than reflecting on those times when you thought, oh no, I didn't do well at all. So you build your confidence that way. You remind yourself, I can do this. I have this strength in me. I can do this. I have this capacity. I've learned, I've transformed a lot. I've healed a lot. Remind yourself of that. I think a lack of confidence in one's capacity I don't know that I've been aware of that in so many around me recently, but it seems that in the fairly recent past that was sort of a big issue that would become apparent, that of people not feeling good enough or feeling, oh, I can't do that. Who am I to think I could do that? So when you set your aspiration for the new year, well, my way is set the bar high. Why low? Why do that? Why not go for it, whatever it is? Set that aspiration and know that you can do this. I can do this, whatever it is. So, I'm not sure. I always do this. I think I started at about 8 o'clock your time, or just a little after. So I've been talking for about 30 minutes. And I want to leave plenty of time for Q&A, because that's always, we get to hear directly what is in your hearts, on your mind. And it's always a wonderful question for everyone. So remember that when you ask a question, you're not just asking it for yourself, so you're not being selfish. You're not taking time away from someone else. You're asking the question that's probably in the hearts and minds of everyone in the Zoom space. And the answer will be for everyone as well. It can benefit a lot of people. So it's a real act of generosity to ask your question. And sometimes it takes courage too. But mostly in a group like this, it's generosity. It's just saying, okay, I can do this. So I'll bow out, and maybe Brother Ivan or someone is going to see about the mic or handle that, facilitate this section. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Trish. Ivan Bangin. Thank you, Sister Trish, for the half an hour of Dharma talk. And we always leave a lot of time for question and answer. We'd like to invite you today to also ask a question from your heart, and also ask with courage, because we are going to continue with the recording, so that your question and the answer will also benefit friends who are not able to attend today, or perhaps they want to just listen again. So we ask you to bow in with courage and to ask from your heart, because as Sister Tricia said, it will benefit all the friends who are here today, online and in person, but also friends who will listen to the recording. So perhaps I can suggest that for each question, after the answer has been provided, we listen to one sound of the bell from the Sangha house before we proceed to the next question. Okay, so the circle is open for Q&A. Any friends online who are ready, you can unmute yourself, bow in, introduce a name, and ask the question. Same for friends in the Sangha house. And we would like to offer a gentle reminder that a good question doesn't need to be a long one. A short question is equally good. So, Ivan bowing up.
Bowing in, I'm Moon from Dubai. So good to see everyone. My question is, like, even though you have been practicing mindfulness for a long time, and you know you're not supposed to be angry, but you know situations sometimes arises, let's say trying to get doctor's appointment or insurance approval, like where people are always being unfair to you, like, or with your family, like you're trying to help them, but they're being rigid. And then, you know, like if you're trying to help them, but they will not take your help, but then they'll blame you. And because this happens all the time, and slowly the resentment builds up. So then you just get angry, and then in your mind, you feel like, yeah, my anger is justifying because this is happening for long enough time, so I should get angry and it's okay. But then the anger is really hurting me at the end of the day. And then, but when I'm in a situation where I can't really get out of the surrounding, or the situation is like part of life, then how do we stay calm and not be in that painful like anger inside?
Luna. Moon. Beautiful name.
Thank you.
Anger was a big part of my life. I mentioned that earlier. It's been helpful for me. It was helpful for me when I learned and then remembered that I was really covering something deeper than that. I was protecting, I was not allowing my vulnerability to show. So I would come out, "Arr," when really I just wanted to go, oh, my heart is hurting. Now, maybe your heart is not hurting when you are, when you don't get what you want at the dentist or the doctor's office or whatever. So that's not, so there are degrees. And so we call that impatience or irritability. They don't answer the phone, or they made an error and I arrived and they say, no, I don't have an appointment today, it was yesterday, or it's tomorrow, or whatever. We don't really get angry about that. So there are degrees. But underneath all of that is life is just not going the way I want it to go. Right? So it's putting ourselves in the center. It's a hard lesson, but it's a worthy one to realize that the world is actually not swirling around me. I am not in the center of things. It has been very helpful for me to, instead of paying so much attention to how I am not liking this and not liking that and unhappy with that person and what they did and unhappy with that, I don't really want to be unhappy like that. So what really has been helpful is to start paying attention to them, trying to understand what's going on over there. Did the receptionist at the doctor's office have, have I spent any time with her? Does she have a sick child at home? What is going on in people, trying to understand other people. Working to do that, that is a form of loving other people. And that is a way we love ourselves, because we're not so separate. So my root guru, first teacher, used to say to me, some of you have heard me say this many times, when I would say to her, Judy, he's doing this and he's not doing that, usually talking about my husband. So usually it's the intimate partner that we're having the issues with. Oh, he does this, he does that. And she would literally take my finger and turn it around and say, where are you doing that, Trish? Where are you doing that? So this is the truth, but it takes a while to really have confidence in this truth, that the world is a mirror. What we're really seeing is what's going on inside of us. And so that we don't realize is there, and Carl Jung, this great psychologist, called it the shadow side. It's what we don't know about ourselves. So the person in front of us is showing us something about ourselves. So we try to understand what's going on with that person. The more I understand, Ty says, understanding is another word for love. Without understanding, there is no love. But at the same time, so it's multifaceted, it's that, or at least two things are going on, trying to understand what's out there, but then using that as a teaching and coming home to myself and saying, so why did I get so upset about that? It's a small thing. I mean, I have plenty of clean water to drink. I have food on the table. I have a wonderful life. I'm surrounded by flowers. What am I complaining about? Why am I so upset about something? Get it in perspective. Why? So then usually it goes back to the child inside. She's running the show now, and she's upset. So it goes all the way back. So Ty wrote a wonderful book. In 2009 it came out, Reconciliation, Healing the Inner Child. So I highly recommend that, to to put more focus on your own early experience and why the tendency, the habit energy is there to react in negative ways, and to try until you get it, that actually everybody wants to be loved and liked and respected. Everybody. To make a point, I used to say everybody, even Hitler himself, now I would say even Donald Trump himself, wants to be loved and liked and respected. They just don't know how to get it. They're trying. So everybody's trying their best to get the love and respect that we all deserve. But there's just so much ignorance and so much pain and suffering in early life, or in mom's early life, or dad's early life, or the grandparents. So we are continuations of our ancestors. There's a lot to learn. So if you're new to the practice, be encouraged, because it's a journey of a lifetime, and you'll never be bored. You'll never get bored. So I used to be fond of saying, I haven't met anyone any more interesting than myself. In my life, my early life, my parents' early life, of course then, so I'm just being funny because, or trying to be, to lighten it. But it's true. It's true that when we start looking at the psychology of a human being, of the psyche of a human being, and the best way I can understand you is to spend time here understanding me. So I hope that's a lot. That's a lot of answers to the situation that you described, Luna. But take heart. Take heart. Stay with it. Surround yourself with people like you see on the screen. Wholesomeness, loving people. Be careful, be mindful. I'm trying to train myself to stop saying be careful. It's not about careful, it's about mindful. Be mindful of what you're watching, what films you're watching, what books you're reading, what seeds you're watering in yourself. So look for the wholesomeness, the beauty in life. There's so much. So thank you for that question.
Sister Moon buying out.
Joe bowing in. Trish, hi. Is it's working?
Yeah, I see you.
Hi, Trish. It's Joe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How are you?
Good.
I just have a very practical question. I've always been a sort of enjoy peace and quiet, and I think after I adapted to having 15 other snorers around me in the dorm, I really enjoyed getting up at 4:30 to the sound of the bell and doing all our morning activities in Thailand. Because since I'm back in Singapore this last week, I find just the routine noises of day-to-day life so much more distracting than even before. Um, any advice on how to try to recreate some of what we had in Plum Village, Thailand, and particularly in the morning in our day-to-day life? Thank you. Sure.
Thank you, Joe. Joe was in my family in the retreat. I have spent quite a bit of time at the Sangha House, staying at the Sangha House in Singapore. And I know that at 4:30 in the morning it's very quiet outside. So maybe one thing that you can do is, I don't know if it's possible to keep up the energy, but there's just nothing like the early morning. And wherever you are. I mean, it's true here. In the noisiest city in the world, I do believe, is Hanoi, at certain times of the day. We have a little dog, and the only walk that he really enjoys, even though there's a lake just a few meters away and a sidewalk around it, but the only walk that he really enjoys is the one at about 4:30 and 5 in the morning, because it's still quiet. After that, the streets get so busy with motorbikes and cars, and it's just really noisy, quite noisy. But I actually used the noise of Hanoi in 2006 and 7, which was nothing like it is now, but I thought it was pretty awful, to go inside. It was either when I was on the street in the old quarter, and I loved to go to, I was really into exploring, everything was new to me, and pretty much still is. And wow, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it's like 1,000 motorbikes coming at you, and stop at a red light and then taking off. And then the sidewalks, they're not built for walking. They're built for people selling their wares, or so people sort of camp out and so you have to step around them, or they're parking motorbikes on them because there's no sufficient parking for motorbikes. So it's a obstacle course. The sidewalks, you have to pick your way through. That's very helpful for the practice of mindfulness. You have to be mindful or you fall and break your neck. And on the other hand, if you are not mindful when those motorbikes are revving up, well, you would just go, it's like, oh my God. It's just, I'm not being overly dramatic. It would be that way. It's just so loud. And I notice Vietnamese people, to me, in my experience, they are some of the calmest, coolest, self-contained people, who don't react. And I think they're just inside, and I have asked, how is it that you across the street from your house, they've got those big speakers out there now, and they love to practice karaoke on Friday afternoons or Friday nights or Saturday. And my friends say, well, Trish, it's really okay, because we figure one day we'll be doing that too. So they're just very tolerant, if just being with things as they are. So for me, the noise forced me to just go inside and really just shut that out. So I've gotten really good at shutting out, to the point of sometimes I miss things that I wish I hadn't. But I guess I get what I'm supposed to get. But I am not one to now walk down the street going like this and, oh, wow, or hearing everything. I don't. So I'm quite much more focused, and I credit the noise. So Joe, the antidote, it's like a vaccine. The antidote is how do you say that? Is the disease is the cure. I think maybe that's the way to say it. The very thing that you want to run away from is the very thing that will support you to grow in your practice. So let me know how that works out for you. It might take a little while for you to start realizing the benefits, but try that. Yeah. we know, you know, in yoga, resistance is what causes the pain. It's relaxing into a thing and accepting it, that then it's no longer a problem, really. Just don't even think of it as a problem. It's our resistance of wanting things to be another way. That is another way to answer Luna's question. Once we can just be accepting of, okay, they're living their life and it's not the way I thought I wanted my life to go, but okay, I just, all right, I'll just be with it. And then it's not a big thing. So wherever we put our energy, it grows. If you put your energy into a so-called weed, it will grow. If you put the energy into a flower, it will grow. So if you spend a lot of time resisting something, it just gets crazier and crazier, bigger and bigger in our minds. It's all in our minds. Everything's happening in the mind. So I hope that's helpful. Thank you.
Joe Gaia.
Joe, you might want to give us your lineage name.
Joyful awareness.
Yes, there you go. So practice with that.
We have a question from Sangha House.
Jamie bowing in. I guess I wanted to ask you a question about practically how to approach the news. And you mentioned when you're speaking earlier that you read the news around the world and you know what's happening and it actually motivates you more. It doesn't have the same effect on me. In fact, I spent the first half of last year not reading the news in order to, I guess, surround myself with better energy, and then I realized I was missing out so much that I started reading it again. But it angers me, it depresses me, and I guess I also don't want to accept it. You just talked about acceptance, but I don't want to accept that that's the world that we live in. So I would love to get any advice that you have about how we should approach, I guess, the current state of the world that we live in, and just how we should approach news in general. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Yeah, that's a very relevant question. A lot of people are having that same experience, and I've had that experience as well. There were times in my early life, years ago, long before I knew there was a thing called a practice, there were certain news stories that I could not bear to read. So you might want to pay attention to that. If you see everything as a teaching to help you to understand yourself, your past, your ancestors, your history, that maybe has been rewritten even before you were born, but you can get to the truth of things by seeing how you feel when you read certain things. So you can use those as teachings. So I hear your very beautiful wish for the world. I hear that. We wish people in Gaza in Israel weren't suffering like they're suffering. We wish so much, don't we? So I learned. So when I was asked for the very first time in 1989, no one had ever asked me this kind of question. What would you say your passion in life is? And don't spend any time thinking about it, just tell me. And I said, oh, well, I guess world peace. World peace. So I wondered what you want, what we all want. There's one way to get it. Because then you learn that here's the world. This is the world. Each of us contains the world. How we live our life impacts the collective out there. So it took some time. So I was in psychotherapy. Some of you know that story. My mother had passed away suddenly. I was 47 years old. I didn't realize mothers died. I just didn't know that. I didn't realize my mother would die one day, and it was, where did she go? And so I was depressed. Didn't know it, but later realized when I felt better, I really realized how terrible I had felt. And a friend took me by the hand and took me to a very wise woman, psychotherapist, who I heard her say many times, I never learned one thing in school. When I got that degree, I only got the degree in order to be legal. She said, everything that I'm teaching here, helping you with, supporting you with, is from my personal experience. I had never heard of the Buddha at that time, but that's exactly the Buddhist, and that's exactly what the Buddhist teachings are. We learn from our own experience. And so it took a long time before I could grasp that. What does that mean? What? So am I making that happen out there? You mean, in other words, so I'm at fault? Is that it? No, it's not like that. It's not about fault. It's not about blaming. It's about claiming. Claiming responsibility, claiming for your own truth, for whatever is here. And then slowly I began to understand that my inner work, so, some of you are familiar with the podcast, The Way Out is In. The way out of all this mess in the world is to go inside and do this inner work, each of us individually and collectively. So my inner work impacts yours. It's extremely important to have a sangha, to surround yourself with people like you, who are also wanting do these same things. Wanting to wake up, wanting to understand, wanting to make a contribution, wanting life to be better for everyone, wanting there to be no more poverty, no more, it's just, but this is the world we live in because as Ty said in one of his last Dharma talks in the last 3-week retreat, Brother Will was there, other people on the screen were there, 2014 in France, and he said, it just seems that the human species has not been able to come very far in our understanding, is what he meant. But we're still here. We're still here. And we support one another to do this inner work. And it's not just like, oh, horrible work. It is joyful work. It is satisfying work, because we begin to see the fruits of this work, especially when we come together, when we can sit in a circle or on the screen. I still imagine it being a circle, and listen to one another share. Listen to one another talk about what's real in your life, what's going on in your life. Your personal life is your practice. That's where we practice. Yeah. Even in 1996, I didn't quite understand, what do they mean when they say the practice? The practice. What does that mean? Yeah. Psychotherapists didn't talk like that, but Buddhists did. And yeah, so it's the path. It's the path of understanding and love. It's the path of peace. It's the path leading to the North Star. We don't worry about whether we're ever going to get there. That's beside the point. So it's not about outcomes, it's about the process. So actually, I've come to the understanding the world is perfect, actually. So I've stopped seeing everything as tragic and crying about it. I cried so many tears for years. Oh, the poor people, the poor this, the poor that. No, we're just having a life, and everyone has suffering. Everyone has illness, death in the family. We ourselves will pass away. Yeah, we don't escape that. That's life on the planet. This is where we come to learn. So this is like a super hyped up PhD program in how to live a life and how to allow others to live their lives, and keep the focus on understanding, loving, making connection, but coming back here, what's going on here? Why this? Okay. Oh, this is, okay. So this is why we have total relaxation in Plum Village. It's not just to take a nap. It's to relax every cell in the body, because that's when we can have some insights, when we're relaxed. When we're like this, we're not going to have any light bulb go off, a moment of enlightenment. I get regular massage. I was so tired after that retreat last week that I slept through 3/4 of my massage, and I had to accept that, but I was disappointed because I really like to lie there and focus, and I think I get double results. The therapist is present, and I'm right there with her. She's pressing there. My attention is right there. So that's a meditation on the body. So the world is just as it needs to be, and and we just do our part to make it a better place within our families. My family is really calling to me this year. My blood family. I see that. So I'm going to South Carolina in about 3 weeks. And it's just quite a year of change. So I'm going to be I've been invited by Joyful Garden to give the Dharma talk on the Day of Mindfulness on the 25th, Sunday the 25th of January. And I already have some really good ideas for what I really want to talk about change and impermanence and the end of the year of the snake and welcoming the fire horse, and what does all that mean? So I'm sure that most of you on the screen could tell me more than I know about that, but I intend to learn. and talk about that and invite you to share about it too, about what's going on in your life having to do with change and uncertainty, all of which is there. So it's a great time to be alive. It's a great time to be alive. Yeah. So maybe I hope that was helpful. I'll say one more thing about that. But when you know, so you described that, so when you went back to reading and being aware of everything that's going on, you feel depressed and angry, and so then stop doing that. Stop doing that. Stop reading it. You'll always hear those things you need to know. So it's like any kind of medicine. We take it in small doses and we don't overdose. It's not working for us. So we're each very much alike, but we're a little bit different too. And and we're on a different time schedule of, not that the path is linear, but our participation, we go in different stages, and we each have to be aware of what works for me. Because if it doesn't work for me, then it's not whatever I have to give you is not going to be that valuable. If I don't feel peaceful inside, how can I offer you peace? How can I be a peaceful, calm presence in your life if I'm not feeling peaceful and calm? So that's my responsibility. As Ty said, use your intelligence. So thank you for that. Yeah, for that question.
There's a question from Sangha House.
Hi, Sister Trish. Thank you so much for the Dharma sharing. I'm Kai here from the Sangha House. Really appreciate you sharing about the inner child, which really resonates. And I see that in my loved ones, especially my parents, very wounded inner child. So just want to seek advice. What we recommend if we would like to heal the inner child of our loved ones, which can be challenging, especially if they themselves don't recognize the inner child. Thank you.
Oh, I know. It is so, it really, we just really want to do that for our loved ones, don't we? So, the motivation is good. Kai, your motivation is really good. Some of you know that I went to India in 1996 and I had a private audience with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And that was essentially the question I asked him. I described situations, family members, and it wasn't about inner child. I wasn't talking to him about inner child, but I was talking to him about how to help my loved ones and the people in my community. What could I do? I just felt surrounded by addiction, so much addiction. Alcohol is huge in South Carolina for sure. I'm aware of that because I'm from there and I go there every year. With young people, I think it's certainly not not restricted to that state, but it's a tradition. Young people start drinking with their parents early. Hard alcohol, 14, 15, yeah, before their brains are... So much suffering. And so I was asking, now I've been in India 6 months, I've had these amazing experiences, and now, my last week I'm sitting here with you, and I've had all these gifts. What can I do? How can I take it? How can I take it back to my loved ones? And he sat back, and then I was sitting over there a little bit to his left, and he looked. So he did what he says that is a good thing to do with people. You pay them a compliment, but you don't do it necessarily directly to them. You do it where they hear you. You tell someone else. So his religion secretary, when he has someone like me in the room, his religion secretary stands quietly in a corner in case he needs a word or interpretation, anything, whatever he might need. So he looked at his religion secretary and said, "Good motivation." And then he turned and looked at me. So I'm looking at you, Kai. Good motivation. And then he said, I recommend Shantideva, chapter 6. Well, I had been there 6 months, but I mean, I was no scholar. I hadn't read a book by him until I was on the train headed to Dharamsala, and had only read American Dharma teachers, people who'd spent time as Thai forest monks and gone back and become big teachers. And so I was like, what? And so the religion secretary said, Shantideva, 8th century saint, His Holiness often quotes from him. It's The Way of the Bodhisattva. That's the book. It's a beautiful book. So I still have that book. And I've bought other books, other publications of that, or more recent editions of that book. And chapter 6 is, Lunar, are you listening? Patience. Patience. So there's a lot in that, but it's to say what I've said earlier in different ways, and that is, do your work, Kai. Let your life be the example. Be patient. Your parents will wake up to the reality of they have an inner child on their schedule. Yes, it could be that one day there's something happens. You're sitting at the kitchen table having a cup of tea or something with your mom, and somehow it comes up. Maybe she's just read something, or maybe she heard you saying something about inner child, and she says, "What is that?" So then she's showing interest. Then, only then. So, we don't give advice unless it's asked for. People don't like to be given advice if they haven't asked for it. Have you noticed that? I don't like it. No one likes it. It's like, yeah, I didn't ask for it. You're assuming a lot when you're assuming that something's wrong with me by giving me advice that I didn't ask for. I didn't tell you that I was having trouble with anything inside of me. So whether it's an inner child or my heart or my lungs or whatever. So, and it's to practice to realize, that they're on their journey. That you are their continuation. And yes, we have, especially if we live with or nearby our family of origin, we have a huge impact. But it takes time, and that's why patience is required. And the time that is taken is our own transformation. So they see, wow, have you noticed Kai? He used to wake up in the mornings and he was really grouchy, and have you noticed he seems to be smiling more and whatever, they're noticing what's going on with you, Kai. And that's how you bring about change, is by changing. So that's, yes, I hope that that's clear. The other, His Holiness suggested one more chapter, chapter 8, and that is on meditation. So he said, he sent me home saying, your practice is patience and meditation. And the next year I found Thai, who said, everything is an opportunity to practice meditation. You don't just have to sit on a cushion. You do it when you're chopping a carrot. You do it when you're walking. You do it when you're eating. Have you mastered the art of mindful eating? It's a huge practice, transformative, to be present for the food, to eat slowly, to chew slowly. I know how speeded up things are in Singapore. I've spent a lot of time there. I know how it is. You have my full support to do everything you can to slow it down. Slow down. And one way to slow down is to write rather than to spend all that time on the computer. So I was remembering this when I was sitting before we started. I was in Singapore with friends in a mall or something, and I was buying something, and I was signing my credit card slip. And they all burst, including the service persons, started laughing, and I said, what's funny? Because I wrote my name. I write my name. I don't go, and that's what people do now. So no one can read your name because no one takes time. So that is a practice. It is, I still write notes. Yes, I use my computer. I'm on it a lot. I'm on my phone a lot, texting and whatever. But I write. I've got little books like this all over the place that I'm always writing things. That takes time. You can't, if you want to be able to read it a year from now or even a week from now, you have to take time and write it in a legible way, right? So that slows you down. That is a practice. Just like eating meditation is a practice of slowing down your mind. As the body goes, the thoughts go. So if I want to stop those thoughts that are going like this, those 60,000 that they say we have in a day, that go running through our minds, you practice slowing down your body, your activities of the action of the body. So if the car goes fast, your mind is going fast. Yeah. That's why the nuns at Plum Village drive about 35 miles an hour. They don't go fast, but they get you there. So I hope that's helpful. Do your inner work, and they will notice, because you will change. So that's how we change the world, by changing ourselves. And the world includes our parents right here in the house with us. I hope that's helpful. Thank you for that question, Kai.
Well, we invite everybody now to notice that we're close to 9:30, but we have time maybe for one last question. Somebody who cannot go to sleep tonight if they don't ask that question, be it online or in the Sangha house.
Yvonne, bowing in. Thank you, Sister Trish, for the talk. I was a little bit late, but there's one part that really resonated me, and maybe if you can help me to understand a little bit better, that will be very helpful. When you say, beginning of this year, we want to renew ourselves and we should set our aspiration, and you said that we should set it very high. With my own practice, my struggle is that maybe because I want to practice, I want to chill and I don't want to overstress myself. So I try not to set my aspiration very high, even though I feel like I can do a bit more because I want to maintain this good energy. So maybe you can help me understand a little bit more what do you mean by set your aspiration high, and then how do you maintain that practice and that equanimity or the calmness? Because the more you do, then it's not so easy to remain less stressed, I guess. Thank you very much. Yvonne bowing out.
Yeah, thank you, Yvonne. Well, so my aspiration in 1989 was world peace. It doesn't get much bigger than that. And that has kept me going. Because I think, wow, yes, I've set a high goal. If it's low, I'm not so motivated. It's like my purpose is not this. I don't know. I hope I can explain this. I don't know. But the goal is so big. My name is Concentration on Peace. That's the name that I got when I committed to the 14 mindfulness trainings. Why in the world would I stop short of Buddhahood? Why wouldn't I want to be I'm not talking about Trish, this personality, but my contribution to the collective is to go for full Buddhahood. If no one did that, we'd never have a Buddha. We'd never have a fully enlightened one. So this gives me such purpose. I'm not just trying to drink more water, or walk 10,000 steps a day, or I'm trying to live as long as I can live, and whatever is required for that, so that I can practice, so that I can make as much, realize as many insights as I can, or whatever. But let me be clear that it doesn't feel like work. I'm not working exactly. I call it, we all say this is inner work, and it is, but it's not like drudgery. It's joyful. So I feel joyful because I know that I can make a difference. I have confidence in that. It's not to say I have confidence in Trish. I have confidence in the teachings. I have confidence in all of you to support me. I wouldn't be here without you. Actually, we were told last week we wouldn't be here without that tree outside. So everything is important, So I guess if I could just inject something in every one of you and everybody I know, it would be to say, you are made of so much more. You are so much more than you think you are. We've been conditioned to just think small, but we can think big. And then we act small. Take care of what's around us. I don't need to go to the moon to do something. I don't need to be running around over there. I'm just to take care of what comes into my life, or respond to it, yes. So I'm a yes person. And one way we train ourselves for that is in walking meditation. Take a step and say to yourself, yes. We've heard so many no's in our lives, starting in childhood. No, you don't do that. No, don't do that. No, you can't do that. No, you'll hurt yourself. No, 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 no. That keeps going. So you counter that with yes. Yes. I'm here. Yes. Saying yes to life, to whatever it brings. Open. You can do big things. We can all do big things. So Mother Teresa actually said, so that her quote, I love Mother Teresa. Actually what she says is, we can do no big things, only small things with great love. So maybe I need to rework what I just said to you all. So we do small things with great love. Yeah. Yeah. I'm very happy to see all of you and to be with all of you. And I hope that I see all of you on the 25th, Sunday the 25th. Stay tuned. Thank you.
Dear Sangha, dear friends, thank you for being here this evening. Thank you, Sister Trish, for the talk and the wonderful answers, and also the friends who have bowed in to ask your questions courageously. I think we can stop the recording now.